Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is On Palmer.
Good Friday afternoon, Baton Rouge. Max Gotro filling in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday afternoon. Chilly Friday afternoon. I hope everybody staying warm out there. I know some people out there lost power, so if you have any loved ones might be without power, make sure you check in on them and make sure they have a warm place to go if they're going to be without power for a little while. Jam-packed show for you today. A lot of guests coming in this afternoon. We'll start off with Rob Pizzola. Interested to hear some of his opinions. Pro sports bettor. We obviously have a ton of pro sports bettors on Jimmy Ott's Game Time, where I'm an assistant, if you don't recognize me, for my not so great primetime player props as of late. But hey, we went 3-0 last night. Nice game for Jags and Jets. But Rob Pizzola is the co-owner of BetStamp and the co-founder of the Hammer Betting Network. He has some interesting perspectives on the sports betting space. I'd love to sort of pick his brain, and we'll get a pick or two as well for this weekend in the NFL. And at 2 o'clock, we'll be joined by Jake Trotter, ESPN's NFL Nation reporter, covering the Cleveland Browns as we get set for Saints-Browns tomorrow, Christmas Eve action for New Orleans. 2:15, we'll be joined by Will Guillory, Pelicans beat writer for The Athletic. Interested to hear his thoughts. It's a back-to-back. The Pels coming off a win last night, break that 4-game losing skid with a win against the Spurs, but they're back in action tonight in Oklahoma City, taking on the Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, actually underdogs in that game. So interested to hear Will's thoughts. And at 2:30, we'll be joined by Wilson Alexander, LSU beat writer for The Advocate. Going to talk all things LSU transfer portal, recruiting. Obviously a big couple of days with the the early recruiting process opening up just a couple days ago, and it's been really busy in the transfer portal today. So we'll get his thoughts as they prep for the Citrus Bowl as well in 10 days. First, I want to open with a few thoughts. We'll keep this a shorter set because I really want to hear from Rob in the next segment. Last night, Jets win 19-3. But I think there was a big takeaway to be had in this game when you look at the quarterback situation and where these teams are. And it kind of relates to where the Saints are as a franchise right now. The Jets and the Jaguars outside of the quarterback position are sort of in similar positions. They both are 7-8. Now, the Jaguars have a much better chance of making the playoffs, but that's strictly due to their division. Outside of that, it's pretty similar. You've got a good running back on both sides, some nice young receivers, so some nice weapons offensively at skill positions. You could use some work on the offensive and defensive line. The line of scrimmage could use work on both these teams. And then some nice young pieces, especially with the Jets secondary. I mean, they've got some weapons on that defense. This should be a good team. And they were early on. And I know a lot of people thought, there's some pretenders out there. And they were one of them, right there with the Giants. But what's the difference between these two teams? It's the quarterback position. And it really changes the way you look at these teams going forward. The fan bases are in completely different positions. And they have the same record. And they both have quarterbacks that are in their second year. Let's start with Zach Wilson. He's been really bad this year. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. When he's getting booed off the field in New York, that's not uncommon. It wasn't surprising. I don't think Kirk Herbstreit, Al Michaels were taken aback by that at all. It wasn't surprising. All of MetLife Stadium got in on it. But 9 of 18, 92 yards, an interception, poor decision making. We've seen it. We saw it again. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence, he is showing why he is a difference maker for this team. He could be a potential franchise weapon at quarterback for this team. 20 of 31. He was consistent. Look, the weather was not great. It was not a perfect game, but he did some work on the ground. 51 rushing yards and a touchdown. And he's been playing well. Lights out the last 7 games. Been one of the best quarterbacks we've seen over that span. So you have one team that doesn't have a quarterback, and they're going to have to search for their next quarterback. They're not done. And this is a team that 3 years before drafting Zach Wilson drafted top 5 at quarterback as well with Sam Darnold. That didn't work out. They gave him time, but Zach Wilson's time is done. We know that. I mean, there's no coming back from the off-the-field conversations, not taking the blame, not shouldering it. That didn't work well in the locker room. Mike White's much more appreciated there. So Zach Wilson's done. As a franchise piece in New York, he is done. I'm not going to write his obituary for his career. He may go somewhere elsewhere and do very well. We're all rooting for him. I'm not rooting against him by any means, but the Jets are looking for their next piece because they can't win a Super Bowl. They're not contenders right now because they don't have a quarterback. Trevor Lawrence might be that next piece. The Jaguars aren't really ready yet, although they might be a scary team if they make it into the playoffs. I wouldn't want to face this Jacksonville team right now. They've got a Super Bowl winning coach. They've got the weapons, and they've got what looks to be a very good quarterback entering, a good part of his career where the first year of it was kind of wasted, wasn't it? Urban Meyer, that looks terrible right now. But you have a real quarterback versus a non-quarterback. A franchise piece versus nothing at quarterback. That's the difference. And if we didn't know that already, there's one exception to this in the NFL that I can think of, and it's San Francisco. They have enough around that team to where Jimmy Garoppolo is an above-average quarterback, but he's not perfect by any means. He's not a top 10. He's not going to win you games by himself all the time. But he's I would say, slightly above average, right? And they have a lot to decide in this offseason. But the Saints are in a position right now, they don't have their quarterback. I would love for it to possibly be Jameis Winston. We could experiment with that, but it seems like the front office, the coaching staff, they've made up their mind about him. Otherwise, he'd be playing. He's not banged up enough. If he was 80%, he'd still be playing. This season is pretty much done. I know their playoff chances are still alive, and we'll talk about that Saints-Browns game coming up. But, all in all, you should be trying to see what's next for this team. And if Jameis Winston isn't there, they might be in trouble. So this is a huge offseason for the Saints. And I think Thursday night proved that. You have to find your quarterback. You're in a tough position because you don't have the assets to make trades. We'll see. It's a huge offseason. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but I think that's what we discovered more than anything, is your quarterback is going to determine where your franchise is. Your fan base is going to turn against you if you don't have that. And right now, the Saints, they don't have their future quarterback. We don't know who's going to be in that quarterback room next week. Or next year, sorry. Let's go ahead and go to a break. I want to get to Rob Pizzola, co-owner of BetStamp, co-founder of the Hammer Betting Network, man of many roles, pro sports bettor as well. We'll pick his brains on Week 16 in the NFL when we come back. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on a new 2022 Ford F-150, plus no payments for 90 days and 2.9% APR for 72 months. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal. supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana Loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big V and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
There's nothing better than tailgating, but it can be a lot of work. So why do it yourself when you don't have to? Let Revelry Sports and Entertainment set up your luxury tailgate on campus. Order what you want and just show up to party. Book your tailgate today at revelryteam.com. Revelry Sports, the official tailgate partner of LSU Athletics.
Me, Jimmy out and Mike Delicano for the Tuesday edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're at Dozy Place on Government Street in the heart of Mid-City. Game Time presented by Bet Rivers, 6 to 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Gotro filling in for Hunt Palmer this Friday afternoon. Hope everyone out there staying warm, and a pleasure to be joined now by Rob Pizzola, a man of many roles, pro sports bettor, co-owner of BetStamp, and co-founder of the Hammer Betting Network. Good Friday afternoon to you, Rob. Thanks for taking the time. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going great.
Good stuff. Rob, we are pretty much sheltering in place. Unless you're traveling out there for the holidays, it is freezing here in South Louisiana. We're not going to get above freezing, and we get that like once every 3 years. If I'm not mistaken, though, you live in Canada, so maybe you can make us feel a little bit better. How's the weather like for you right now?
Yeah, so I'm up north. I live just outside the Toronto area. We're dealing with about 15 degrees right now. Pretty snowy. I tried to leave the house this morning. I got blown right back in through the front door. So that's kind of the conditions we're dealing with over here. Very similar to, I guess, what the Saints are going to see in Cleveland this week.
That's true. Yep. That's a big game of discussion, and obviously the weather going to play a huge factor in the NFL slate. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But I've listened to a lot of the media. You do a ton of it throughout the week, a lot of content over the years. I've always been intrigued, especially by how you approach some of the common terms that we hear now in the sports betting space. Especially last week, we saw a lot of close games, some questionable officiating decisions. We heard a lot of Vegas no's out there, some of the trap lines, sharps versus squares, and reverse line movement often comes up. You really push back on a lot of these concepts. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so in regards to the Vegas no's and thinking that Vegas has some idea or there's some sort of predetermined outcomes of the games, what people fail to realize is that it's actually the bettors that create the betting market. It's not Vegas. So when I say that, every single time a bettor places a bet with a sports book, they're providing that sports book with information. And now if you're doing it in Vegas or you're doing it through regulated sports books across the United States, whatever you do, you place that bet, that sports book has a general idea of whether or not you're a long-term winner or you're a long-term loser as a bettor, and they're going to adjust their lines accordingly. There's nothing that Vegas in particularly knows with their lines. They're just using the information of the bets that come in to adjust where it goes. So Vegas doesn't really know anything. It's actually the bettors that are determining where that line moves just by placing their bets. So I often hear things like that where, people just think that these odds makers in Las Vegas are great. They're not doing anything other than reacting to the information that becomes available to them. And I think that's just a common misconception in the marketplace.
Yeah, and with the sharps versus squares as well, I think you hear that a lot. We've seen some reverse line movement. I think we saw a little bit of that actually last night in the Thursday night game. But I know you're not really into picking sides with public versus, being on the sharp side. Don't get that line after it's already moved in favor of the Jets when, you could have had the line earlier at a better number.
Exactly. So one of the problems with the average bettor who's using those public bet percentages to make their bets is that information is not telling you a whole lot because it's not telling you at what number those bets were placed. Because obviously if somebody makes a bet at -2.5 and the line moves to -3, that's a very different number now. So people have to be really weary of looking at those public bet percentages because they don't tell you what number it was placed at. And the second mistake people make is they just want to, quote unquote, fade the public, which in theory makes a lot of sense because, sports books are long-term winners. So they want to be on the same side as the sports book. The problem is that the sports book is booking action at a vig. They're charging bettors a premium to place that bet. Usually it's -110 on a side, but ultimately the sports book only has to win at a rate of 47.6% to break even. If the bettor wants to be on the same side as the sports book, they now have to lay -110 instead of getting +110. So it's not apples to apples, and people don't realize that. And that's why I don't think the fade the public strategy is viable in the long run.
You talked a little bit about prices there and, laying that juice. And you preach a lot about getting that closing line value, perhaps betting earlier in the week. And when you see a lot of the public, they like to put in their bets right on Sunday. I know you do a show on Sunday on Twitter and on YouTube, just giving your picks, but you say, hey, look, like ideally you shouldn't be betting at this time. You should be betting early in the week. And, I really love BetStamp. I use it all the time, to be honest. Not only can you track your bets, which I think is very important, kind of see what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, your best sports, totals, sides, what you're doing there. But you can compare the odds, and I use it. We do a show here Monday and Thursdays, Jimmy Ott's Game Time, and I do some primetime player props. I haven't really seen this elsewhere where you can compare odds on player props. It's very useful to just get right to that and not have to spend time shopping around. So if you don't mind, share some of your perspective on why you think that line value is so important for someone looking to win long term, and how would they get that value?
Absolutely. So closing line value, the closing line. So basically, when you're about to watch an NFL game, 1:00 Eastern time on a Sunday, that line is indicative. It's our best indicator of what the actual probability is of a game. We don't really know anything better. By that time, all the bettors have flooded to the market to make their bets. The sports books have been able to process that information. That is the accurate probability of the game. What you want to do and why you want to bet earlier in the week is because you want to be able to beat the closing line. You want to get a better number than what the market closes at. If I make a bet at -3 and the game closes at -4, I've done my job. If I keep doing that in the long run, I am going to win because my bet is at a better number than what the most efficient market indicator is, which is the closing line. If I make a bet at -3, closes -2.5, that's a head scratcher for me. I don't want that to happen to me in the long run. And the reason why I suggest betting earlier is the earlier you bet, the more inefficient the market is. So when you look at the biggest sports books in the world, they're taking more than $100,000 per click on a Sunday morning in the NFL. They're taking $100,000 per click because they're extremely confident in the number that they're putting out in the market. They don't think that bettors can beat them at that point. If you're betting earlier in the week, you're going to see limits are way lower than that. And that's because the sportsbook isn't as confident in their number. And part of the reason why is the professionals have not got into the market yet and been able to shape that number for them and help them do their job. So that's why I recommend betting earlier in the week. A lot of people struggle with that because they don't have all the information that they need to make the bet. They might not know if a certain player is going to play or be out of the lineup. But at the end of the day, that's going to be a coin flip for you in the long run. Sometimes that information is going to work in your favor. Sometimes it's going to work against you. So don't be fearful of betting earlier. It's actually your best chance to succeed as a recreational bettor.
Rob, does that apply just to the NFL more than anything because of how efficient and how many people bet it? Can you find maybe some good value even at the closing line on perhaps the smaller sports? Even college baseball is really popular here. Perhaps that there's not enough money there to really adjust the line in time for the closing line.
Generally speaking, the bigger the bet the sportsbook is willing to take at the close, the more confident that they are in their number. So with all of the major North American sports, you're probably going to want to bet as early as possible. But there are going to be certain things like player props, for example. The player props markets are not extremely efficient, even for NFL. There's very few sports books that are willing to take a big bet on player props. They're not comfortable or confident in those numbers. So you might be able to wait a little bit later on player props. Or college baseball in your example, where there's not a huge market that there's a ton of professionals involved in. So it really does depend on the sport, and that's a good question. But generally speaking, if you're betting the side or the total of a major North American sports league and you're not a professional, then you're much better off betting early on in the day or early on in the week.
Rob Pizzola, pro sports bettor, with us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Rob, let's talk about this weekend in the NFL. One of the big storylines, of course, is the weather. We mentioned it earlier. If you include last night's game, we will see about 7 totals close in the 30s, it looks like. So that would be the most in a week in over a decade. Generally with these games, do you still see value in possibly unders and perhaps taking the points with the dog? Or has there been maybe an over-adjustment as a whole? Or are you taking it game by game? How do you look at this when you look at the weather perspective and how it's been adjusted in the market?
So it's definitely on a game-by-game basis. There's a lot of things to take into account. So the type of weather is one. Lower temperatures do affect scoring, but not as drastic as some people might think. The real huge factor in scoring is wind. And it really depends on the stadium as well that they're playing in and what type of wind they're going to get, whether that's a crosswind or one that's working. It depends on the direction of the wind. You're going to evaluate the game a little bit differently. Now, historically, in the NFL market, we have actually seen that these big win games tend not to be bet down enough. So what I mean by that is you typically see a lot of money come in on the unders in these games, but not enough on the unders. So you typically see way low, really, really low scoring games. The market then adjusts, and we see this in sports betting from year to year to year. And what we've seen in the NFL this year so far is that these totals, especially this week, have just been bet down like to levels that we haven't seen before. We're seeing totals in the low 30s, mid 30s right now. So I think the market has now adjusted appropriately. Whether or not it's been an overcorrection, I don't know. I'm looking at the conditions across the board in the Northeast of the United States this week, and I'm saying I don't really want to get involved in the overs here because we're looking at a lot of games that could potentially be dealing with a lot of wind, which is the biggest inhibitor of scoring in the NFL. So I'm inclined to say we're going to get a lot of really low scoring games this week, but that's just an educated guess more than anything.
As you may know, here in Baton Rouge, obviously a lot of our audience supports the Saints. But when New Orleans isn't playing, there are a lot of fans out here who root for the Bengals. We actually get a lot of Bengals games here on television with Joe Burrow and a lot of former LSU Tigers on this team, Jamar Chase. But you've been high on Cincinnati. I've listened to a lot of your media. You've been really high on this Bengals team for a while now. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think there's something that the market is just not accurately capturing with the Cincinnati Bengals. This happened with the New England Patriots for years. Even when they were winning Super Bowls, you'd see a lot of sharp money come in against them week after week after week, and they'd find ways to outperform their metrics consistently. And the Bengals do that as well. I don't know if it's good quarterback play. I don't know if Zach Taylor is maybe just a very underrated coach. I can't explain exactly why it's happening, but we consistently see money come against the Bengals. They're 25-10 against the spread since the beginning of last season. If you've just been blindly betting them, you've been doing really well. And I personally think it's just quarterback play in that, a lot of people point to the offensive line issues for the Bengals for years, and Joe Burrow's taken a lot of sacks. But when it comes down to the final 2 minutes of the first half or the full game, he just has an uncanny ability to get it done that maybe is not reflected in all the metrics for the Cincinnati Bengals as a whole. So I think it's probably just the play of Burrow, and that his statistical profile is not that of an elite quarterback. It's not a Mahomes. It's not a Josh Allen, but he's probably closer to that than most people realize.
And we saw a lot of comparisons last week to Tom Brady, who's been someone who's been very frustrating to a lot of bettors over the years for just overachieving. By the way, the Bengals taking on Bill Belichick, and the Patriots are favored by 3 on the road there in Foxborough. From what I understand, listening to a lot of your picks this year, it's been a fantastic season for you in the NFL. Do you have a couple plays for the people out there this weekend?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with a weather game in Chicago. And if Buffalo was playing Chicago in neutral conditions this week, if it was sunny and so on and so forth, I'd have no problems laying 8.5 points with Buffalo. But we're looking at the weather at Soldier Field, 25 mile an hour sustained winds, gusts up to 40 miles an hour. And I really think that if you take away the deep passing game from the Buffalo Bills, I don't want to say that there's not much separating them from the Bears, because obviously they're more talented overall. But the Bills aren't a team that wants to just run the ball regularly. They don't excel at stopping the run. And when you turn this into a game where you're probably going to see majority of the plays being run plays, I think that makes it much more lopsided or let's say closer between these two teams than the market is realizing right now. So I like the Bears getting 8.5 points at home. I think their defense is really bad, especially on the pass defense side of things. But you turn this into a run-first game, and I think there's not as much separating these two teams as most people would see just based off of their rosters. So that's one that stands out to me. And then secondly, I've been betting on the Pittsburgh Steelers a lot recently, ever since TJ Watt returned to the lineup. And I like them again this week, laying 2.5 at home against the Raiders. I think the Raiders are really overrated right now. A couple weeks ago, we're very short-sighted because they win in a miraculous game, essentially, against the Patriots last week, where a lot of things went in their favor, including a touchdown pass to tie the game. That probably wasn't a touchdown pass, but we didn't have a good enough angle to review that and overturn it. Right. Then you get the Jacoby Myers play as well. But this is where I think the wheels come off for them, because they have struggled against very good pass rushing teams all year. And with TJ Watt in the lineup, the Steelers are actually 5-2 this year. Their only 2 losses were to the Bengals and to the Ravens. Aside from that, they've been taking care of business against mediocre teams. I think their defense is really going to disrupt this Raiders offensive line, which has been a huge issue all year. So I'll lay the 2.5 points with the Steelers.
And our Jimmy Ott loves to play emotional spots, emotional letdown spots, more in college football than NFL. But if there's ever an emotional spot, emotional letdown, it'd have to be that Raiders win last week. Before we let you go, Rob, you co-founded the Hammer Betting Network, which started up just a few months ago. What's going on over there at the Hammer? I know a lot of the contributors out there in the sports betting space, but let everybody know who doesn't know already.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the aim for us is to produce content that is consumable by everyone. So we have some professional bettors part of the network. We have some more recreational content creators, and we just want to produce some sort of product that someone could log on every single day and find something that's catered to them. And we really take pride in that. And we also take pride in being completely transparent. When people give picks out on our shows, they're tracked on BetStamp. Anyone can look up the history of all of our content creators and things of that nature. So we want to go about it in a transparent way that appeals to the masses. If people are interested in that, you can check out our website. It's thehammer.bet, or you can go to YouTube and you can subscribe to the Hammer HQ channel as well, where you'll get all of our content that we post on a daily basis.
Can't recommend it enough. I mean, I see all your content everywhere. You're around. It's hard to miss you, really, if you're in the sports betting space. But great follow, by the way, on Twitter, at Rob Pizzola. That's Rob Pizzola of BetStamp and The Hammer. Rob, really appreciate your time, man, and your insight this afternoon. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and yours, and stay warm, all right?
Yes, thanks for having me. Happy holidays to everyone out there.
All right, that's Rob Pizzola of BetStamp and the Hammer Betting Network. Just great follow. Obviously, we have Jimmy Ott here at 104.5. Some fantastic handicappers. But, all these handicappers, I talked to them a little bit through our podcast network, Sports Bettor's Paradise, wherever you get your podcast, by the way. They all have different approaches to certain angles. And, they can get to the same results. But just hearing different mindsets, different approaches to sports betting, I think it's fascinating. It can only be helpful to get more information. And I really appreciate what Rob's doing, just getting more information in a space that, look, there's some people out there that can lead you astray. I've been there before. You hear about reverse line movement. Oh, I got to get on the sharps. The sharps are on this side. Well, it's just not that simple. So sometimes it's good to hear someone like Rob explain it a little bit better. Yeah, really appreciate Rob for coming on. When we come back, we'll preview the NFL slate this week. Rob's picks, kind of like one of those picks. I'll kind of match some of our handicappers as well from Jimmy Ott's Game Time earlier in the day. If you missed it, of course, you can always get that on demand at 104.5 ESPN. We'll get back to you. Stocking stuffers, if you will, from me to you. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Santa Barkley is back, and this year he's giving new FanDuel customers exactly what they asked for. Unwrap the gift of a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 back in free bets when you sign up with the promo code 1045 ESPN. That's $2,500 back if your first bet doesn't win. Now is the perfect time to give FanDuel a shot. The app's easy to use. They're always giving you great promotions, and when you win, you get paid instantly. So see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook and get it on that holiday spirit with a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 back in free bets from Santa Barkley when you sign up with that promo code 1045 ESPN. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. Refund issues, no trouble free bet. Expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on a new 2022 Ford F-150, plus no payments for 90 days and 2.9% APR for 72 months. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ATEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf
Mario wishing everybody a Merry Christmas from the OTB crew. We'll be back on Tuesday for another edition of Off the Bench as we preview the Citrus Bowl and recap all the sports from the holiday. So join us on Tuesday, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Gotro filling in for Hunt Palmer on this Friday afternoon. Hope everyone's staying warm out there. We have a jam-packed show still to come. Second hour, we've got 3 guests back to back. Jake Trotter of ESPN's NFL Nation covering the Browns will join us to preview Browns Saints. Will Guillory, Pelicans beat writer for The Athletic, join us back to back for the Pels, coming off a win, break up that 4-game losing skid. Nice stuff. Without Zion, without Brandon Ingram, going to be without him again tonight. We'll see if they can do it against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and OKC. And then Wilson Alexander, LSU beat writer for The Athletic, will join us to talk recruiting, transfer portal, and the bowl game. First, I want to, though, get to some stocking stuffers. We just heard from Rob Pizzola. He had a couple bets for everyone out there for Saturday. And I just want to go through the board a little bit as well. I'm sure you've heard Jimmy Ott's Game Time earlier. If you haven't, again, catch that on demand, 1045ESPN.com or the 1045 ESPN app. And we'll start tomorrow. Actually, we're going to start with today. We have a bowl game coming up in just about 23 minutes or so. It's the Independence Bowl right here in Louisiana, up in Shreveport. Houston, 6.5-point favorites now. That's dropped. Early in the day, it was at 7. I think at one point it got to 7.5 in some places, but looks like ULL getting a little bit of action, a little bit of buyback at this number. Total, you can get it about 56.5. One thing I want to note out, ULL is dealing with some transfer issues, and Houston, as we've mentioned throughout the week on Jimmy Ott's Game Time, they have not been good. Dana Holgorsen has not been good in this role. In a bowl game, especially where he's laying points, just not ideal to go with Houston. I'm just not sure I can back this ULL side. They are not what they were last season. There was actually a lot of value on betting against the Raging Cajuns early in the season, where they were getting some credit for what they did last year under Billy Napier. And he built an incredible program before he left for Florida. It's not going to be easy to just keep that going. And there were a lot of players that left the program that were very key. So it was expected for them to drop off a little bit. The market has eventually caught up to that. So I think I'm going to have to stay away from the side. If anything, I'd probably take the points with ULL, considering Houston's struggles in bowl games under Dana Holgorsen. But Houston looks like they bought in based on the players who are playing in this game. ULL is dealing with some opt-outs, so perhaps the desire, if they show up wanting to play there in Shreveport, it's going to be cold. You know, they're dealing with the same stuff we are. 15-mile-an-hour winds, this is where it's interesting. The total at 56.5. I would really love this total over, but I think it's accounting for this wind and the cold weather as well. Two teams not very familiar with colder weather, right? Houston, Lafayette, come on. I mean, below freezing, we're not used to this. They're not used to it. And a lot of players on these teams aren't either. But Houston 10-2 to the over this year. You remember that SMU game? It was like 73-66, something like that. I mean, just insane how they've been putting up points and not just going over but going over by a large margin. And ULL's defense, as good as they were in the past, they're putting up decent scoring numbers. I just don't know if they're quite up to par with what we've seen in recent years. So if I'm going to make a play on this game in just about 20 minutes, I'm going to go with the over, despite the wind. 15-mile-an-hour winds, that's right on the cusp of starting to affect the passing game. And that's when you would start to look for the unders. But I think if it just stays a tick below that, you should be able to get some downfield action. I think Houston's going to want to play at a decent pace, put up some points. They've bought in, I think, offensively. And so coming up in 20 minutes, I think I'm going to go with the over in the Independence Bowl. Let's look at the NFL for the next few games. I have some picks, and actually we're going to start off with my strongest pick of tomorrow's action. Tennessee is laying 3 points at home against the one-win Houston Texans. This is where you might say, oh, something's fishy. Vegas knows. That's a trap line. But we just heard from Rob. That's not exactly how this works. And we've seen this before. We saw this earlier in the season, this exact same matchup, except it was in Houston, indoors, in better weather, where Malik Willis got the start in place of an injured Ryan Tannehill. That number got bought back to, it was pretty much a pick 'em. I think it might have closed as Tennessee as a 1-point favorite on the road. And you're basically getting a similar number here. Houston isn't any better than they were then. If anything, they're worse. They've changed at quarterback. They haven't made up their mind there. Tennessee wants to run the ball. What is the weather forecast? It's going to be bad there in Nashville. That means that this is a run-heavy game. And Houston, they can run the ball. They've got good weapons. Dameon Pierce, been a breakout candidate this year. But last game, the first meeting in Houston, indoors, need I remind you, Malik Willis threw it 10 times, completed 6 passes for 55 yards, and threw a pick. And they still won by 7 in that game because Derrick Henry had 32 rushes for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Hilliard, the backup, had 83 rushing yards himself. So you have Malik Willis and Derrick Henry running the ball in a game that's made for running the ball. The adjustment here is just way too much. I understand that Ryan Tannehill is probably a decent quarterback, and there might be some teams, perhaps the Saints included, that might look to acquire him in the offseason because I think he has a year left on his deal, and perhaps Tennessee thinks they're pretty solid in the future, and they want to move on with Malik Willis. He hasn't shown a whole lot yet, certainly, and they took him late in the draft, so that would be a bit of a surprise, but wouldn't be a shock. But Tannehill might mean a lot to the line, but not in a game like this. I know scoring is going to be at a premium. This is where I typically would take points. Low-scoring games favor the underdogs. But in this matchup, I mean, we've seen this before. We saw it before, and it worked out in Tennessee's favor. I think we were on it then on Game Time. I'm going to be on it again. This is my favorite play of tomorrow. Tennessee, the Titans, -3 against the Texans. Seattle is going to Kansas City. They're getting 10 points. And I know Kansas City has not been good as a big favorite. They've struggled with these spreads, and it's not just this year. We know it's been for a few years now. Patrick Mahomes gets a lot of love from the market, as he should. But Andy Reid and this Chiefs team have a way to keep games closer than they should be against teams that they shouldn't be. Seattle is not the team that their playoff hopes are dead. They're going to have to move on. Geno Smith, I think it's still interesting. Is he the future of that team? Is he someone they want to move on with? I think so. I think Seattle's going to stick with him going forward. He's had a good season. It hasn't been all roses for him. It's been a bit of a drop-off from early in the season, but 49.5 is the total here. I think it's Kansas City or pass. It seems like the Chiefs are due for some sort of breakout. I don't like to use the word due, but we're getting close to the postseason. Kansas City needs to start, rounding its way into form for the postseason. And I think this is a spot where they can do it. It's a good matchup against a bad Seattle defense. And so I could see some points here from Kansas City. Wouldn't play it, but if I took it, now that it's at 10, it's a no bet, but just worth considering there. Lions and the Panthers. Lions flying 2.5 on the road there in Charlotte. This will be another cold weather game. It is cold in Charlotte, yes. But, I mean, it's cold here in New Orleans as well. Total here of 43.5. Interesting because Detroit lighten it up scoring-wise. Defense not really backing that up. But they've been playing better defensively as of late. In Carolina, we know they're trying with Sam Darnold. They've tried with a few quarterbacks this year. And they're playing hard for Steve Wilks, the interim coach. He didn't really get a fair shake, I think, in Arizona. He was burned after 1 year. I mean, we see coaches all the time get way longer than a year that don't deserve it. Let's be honest. If I'm going to play a side here, though, it's Detroit. Detroit is trending in a direction where they're playing fantastic football. And I don't know that I would really want to play them in the playoffs right now. Jared Goff, for what it's worth, small hands. They say that's bad in cold weather. I think he hasn't been good in cold weather games. So that's something to consider, but I don't trust the NFC South. I think we all should be on the same page there. So I think it's Detroit or pass there. We're going to skip a few of these games here. Giants and Minnesota. I've been fading the Vikings a lot lately, last few weeks, because Minnesota's overvalued, and they managed to make that ridiculous comeback last week. If the Giants didn't win last week, I think it'd be a good spot to play them here. You'd probably be getting a slightly better number. Giants getting 4 in Minnesota. I don't think I can touch it here, unfortunately. Bills and the Bears. Rob mentioned this earlier as a side he likes. He really likes the Bears. Getting 8.5 in some spots. And I think all the points he made are fantastic. You know, this game suits a running style of game. Buffalo, people question, are they a team made for the outdoors in Buffalo? They don't have a dome on their stadium, but they're sort of an indoor-made team. Chicago is built for things like this, and so I'll take the points there, and a game that points might be a premium, so we'll take the dog there. Atlanta getting 6.5 in Baltimore. Baltimore with a backup quarterback in Huntley. Another game where weather could be a factor. Running the ball could be important. Baltimore's good at running the ball. They have a great offensive line, but Atlanta's bread and butter this year has been in the running game. We saw it last week against the Saints. So I would probably take the points there with the Falcons. Next, I'll get to Philly. The Eagles going on the road. What was going to be a great game against Dallas. Unfortunately, Jalen Hurts not going to play, so got a bit of a different dynamic here. And I think I'm going to take the points. Again, it's a trend, but in this week where weather is a factor, in this game it won't be. It's in Arlington, Jerry World, so that won't be a factor. But all the other games, I think points are the side to take here, and I'll do it here even indoors. Gardner Minshew's a decent quarterback, right? Why not go back with him? Dallas, can we trust? I think they could be a good, dangerous postseason team. They could make it to the Super Bowl. I really do. But Eagles are a good team. They can clinch the top seed, that first round bye, with a win here. Division rivals, they're going to want to play in this game. Gardner Minshew's a good quarterback. Great backup. So I'll take the points there. And then you heard earlier Rob Pizzola taking Pittsburgh as well. That'll do it for the Saturday slate. And we might as well head to break. So when we come back, quick Saints and Browns thoughts before we get to our good friend Jake Trotter of the Cleveland Browns, reporting on the Cleveland Browns for ESPN's NFL Nation. When we come back here on the Hunt Palmer Show, Saints-Browns talk. This is Hunt Palmer Show. This is Max Gotro, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. We all have different needs with our closet space. Some of us have more things than others. Some of us have dual living situations. Some of us are on our own. How much better would your living situation be if you had a closet that was customized to your clothing supply? David Duvall and his crew can do it. They'll come in. It's so easy. They'll come in. They'll give you a questionnaire. Okay, what do you got? How many pairs of shoes do you got? What do you have hanging right here? Okay, and then they'll customize a plan for you, whether it's bins, drawers, tie rack, different compartments, cubbies, all kind of stuff. They'll do it for you. no labor costs with One Bath and Closets for our listeners only. Go to onebathandclosets.com. Check out the testimonials. Check out what they can do. And also do great work in your bathrooms. I've been in the game for 30 years, and I can promise you this. They're not going to come back 2-3 weeks later because they tried to cut a corner to get to the next job and get to the next paycheck. Nope. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Gotro of Jimmy Ott's Game Time, filling in for Hunt this afternoon. Hope everyone's staying warm out there. Crazy times. Not going to get above freezing with the wind chill in the teens. Crazy stuff here in South Louisiana. Before we get to Jake Trotter, ESPN's NFL Nation reporter covering the Browns, a couple quick notes on this game. Let's look at the injury report for the Saints. A few notable players questionable for this game. Marshawn Lattimore still dealing with that ab injury. He's been limited in practice for a couple of weeks. It sounds like he's close to returning. I don't know if it'll be in this game, and frankly, in a game that could be very run-heavy based upon the weather. I'm not sure if they really need him to push himself to make this game. Marcus May also in the secondary. Shoulder injury, he's questionable as well, so interesting to see if those two will play in this game. Adam Troutman is questionable. P.J. Williams is questionable. He's been limited all week as well with a knee injury. Andrus P. was added, did not practice on Thursday with an illness. He's questionable as well, but hope he can make it back. Browns, much shorter injury report. Jadeveon Clowney is out, and John Johnson, the safety, dealing with a thigh injury. He's questionable. All out for the Saints, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, who went on IR, of course, Dwayne Washington, and Pete Werner, dealing with that hamstring injury. And when you look at a run-heavy game, unfortunately, I think it favors the Browns right now. The Saints haven't been all that great this year running between the tackles, at least not with Kamara, and Mark Ingram's out. Dwayne Washington dealing with migraines. He's not going to play, so it has to be a big Taysom Hill game. You would have to think, running some power with him, taking direct snaps. We'll see if he gets involved in this game. I expect a big one. But run block win rate, pass block win rate, that all seems to favor the Browns. When we come back, Jake Trotter joins us.
Miller Lite has more taste and only 1 more calorie than Michelob Ultra.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at runningboardsmarketing.com so we can drive your message to where the people are.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Black Widow Jeep Gladiators in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7, The Tiger.
Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. Happy holidays for offensive lineman. Elton Jenkins of the Packers gets a 4-year, $68 million extension, including $24 million as a signing bonus. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Jack Conklin of the Browns gets a 4-year, $60 million extension, including $31 million guaranteed. ESPN's Field Yates says Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson likely won't be needing any change of address cards.
I would be extremely surprised if Lamar Jackson is playing somewhere besides Baltimore next season. He's going to get the franchise tag if no extension is worked out before that time. He'll probably get the exclusive franchise tag, which would mean the team would have to offer 2 first-round picks in order to execute a trade.
Field Yates on Barton Hahn. A top 4 matchup in the NBA West tonight. The Suns host the Grizzlies at 10 Eastern on ESPN. Suns guard Devin Booker out with groin soreness. From baseball, the Giants will sign 2 free agents, outfielder Michael Conforto, a 2-year deal, $36 million, and Taylor Rogers, 3 years, $33 million.
Hi, this is Max Kellerman from Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. All of us here at ESPN Radio would like to wish you happy holidays and a happy new year.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Max Gotro filling in for Hunt Palmer this Friday afternoon. Independence Bowl getting underway there in Shreveport. Houston trotting out there, and Dana Holgerson, nice touch. See him, the Block State sweater that Mike Leach used to wear. So nice touch honoring Mike Leach. And it's a pleasure that we're joined this eve of Christmas Eve by Jake Trotter, ESPN's NFL Nation reporter covering the Browns ahead of the Browns-Saints game tomorrow afternoon. Good afternoon, Jake. Thanks for the time. Have you stayed warm so far?
No, not at all, actually.
That's fair. I mean, we're freezing our butts off here in Louisiana, too. So I don't know if that makes you feel any better. We never fail to get above freezing.
What's your temperature down there?
I think it's about 30 degrees right now, wind chill of about 20. So we're not used to that at all.
I don't feel sorry for you at all. It's negative 30 here with the wind chill.
Geez.
Negative 5 without.
I think we would all either die just immediately upon contact of outside. We're all bundled in just here. So are you used to that, by the way?
No, who would be used to that?
Yeah, I guess that's true. No one lives in the Arctic.
In the North Pole, maybe I'd be all right.
Right, yeah, no one lives in Antarctica for a reason, I guess. So that's a good point. But the Arctic blast, everyone dealing with it here on the central and eastern coast. Some of us worse than others, I guess. Yeah, pleasure having you on, Jake. We have 11 games in the NFL tomorrow due to Christmas on Sunday. And you'll have a lot of teams on a short week this week. The Browns actually 6-1 off a short week under Kevin Stefanski. But, of course, Cleveland hosted the Ravens last Saturday. So they actually get the full 7 days. I'm curious, forgive me if this is a dumb question, but has the week of preparation been altered at all with the weather and the holiday weekend, or has it been more like a typical Sunday to Sunday type of week for the Browns?
No, it's actually been pretty normal because the storm front did not hit until this morning, and the Browns are off today anyway, day before a game. You know, they'd be traveling today, or they would be off. So it really had no impact on their practice schedule. In fact, they were outside practicing on Thursday afternoon. So, yeah, pretty normal. The game itself is not going to be normal, but the practice week certainly was.
You mentioned it not being normal tomorrow. Might as well share the forecasts for tomorrow's game. 10 degrees, it looks like, 25, 35-mile-an-hour winds. Make it feel about 10 or 20 below zero. Gust even higher with a chance of snow. That sounds like a lot of fun. Jake, maybe you can correct me if it's worse than that. But importantly, with the winds blowing end zone to end zone, by the way, First Energy Stadium, if I'm not mistaken, right there on Lake Erie. So how do you expect this to affect the Browns' game plan in this game?
Well, I don't think they're going to throw the ball. I don't think they're going to kick the ball. I think the only thing anybody's going to be able to do tomorrow is run. So really, I think this game's going to come down to who can run the ball best and who can make the fewest mistakes. I think that's it. And, the one X factor the Saints have is Taysom Hill and that package, and one I expect them to utilize a bunch tomorrow. But I can't imagine that there's going to be any field goals in this game. I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of completed passes, maybe even single digits combined, if tomorrow's anything like today. So it's just going to come down to running game, tackling, and then who doesn't mess up the most.
Yeah, Joe Woods' defense, by the way, they've given up some yards on the ground this year at times. I'm looking at the Saints' run defense, not what it once was a year or two ago, but with that run-heavy game expected, as you mentioned, are the Browns preparing for Taysom Hill in any way to be involved heavily in this game?
Yeah, I think so. I expect both quarterbacks to play. So do the Browns. When we were talking to Browns coach Kevin Stefanski and some of the defensive players, it was kind of unclear how bad it was going to be. I mean, we knew it could be this bad. So it was a little bit we're preparing for everything. But now that we know it's going to be just totally wretched tomorrow, I think that everybody's expecting a heavy dose of Taysom Hill. We'll see. I think both teams might try to experiment with the pass a little early on in the game just to see what that looks like. But ultimately, it's going to be about the running game, and maybe you know better than I, but I think with the Saints, that's usually Taysom Hill on the field.
Yeah, Kamara has not been the best this year running between the tackles, so it does seem like it sets up for Taysom Hill, and interesting not surprising that the Browns are prepped for that. ESPN Browns reporter Jake Trotter joining us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Jake, by the way, are you going to be out in the elements tomorrow, or are you going to be mostly indoors, for luckily, I guess?
Well, I got to walk from my car to the stadium. So that'll be outside in the elements then. I'll probably go down on the field just to see how horrible it is. I don't know how long I'm going to last. I mean, it could be 2 minutes. One thing I want to do is I want to fill up a cup of water, bring it with me, set it on the field, and see how long it takes to freeze.
Yeah, I've got a good friend.
But that'll be the extent of my on-field activities. I'll tell you though, nobody cares about this, or nobody's going to feel sorry for me. But last week it was pretty cold. It wasn't anything like it's going to be tomorrow. But even in the press box, you couldn't take your coat off. That's how cold it was.
Wow.
So I'm going to be pretty bundled up, I think, throughout the day. But yeah, I'll be inside for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I have a good friend up in Bozeman, Montana. I think he got a lot of the weather that you're going to be getting tomorrow. He got it a couple days ago, and he said, just spitting on the ground, it would evaporate immediately. So I'd be curious to see that water experiment tomorrow. But
yeah.
The Browns made that big trade, of course, in March for Deshaun Watson and signed him to that massive guaranteed contract. It's been a shaky first 3 games for him. He has not attempted a whole lot of throws down the field, and certainly we don't expect much of that in this game. But what is the pulse there in Cleveland about Watson so far, and is there still great confidence in him going forward as the franchise quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has struggled to this point. It hasn't been anything like, his 2019, 2020 form. But they gave him $230 million fully guaranteed. They traded 3 first-round draft picks plus other picks. So they think he can be that player, if not even better. I think the jury is definitely still out. You can probably throw tomorrow out. If you're still walking after tomorrow's game, that's going to be a success. They've got Washington and Pittsburgh on the road to close out the season. Those will be, challenging games against pretty good defenses. But next year is going to be the real test for Watson, and he better play a lot better than he has so far to this point. Otherwise, it's going to be a disastrous trade for the Browns.
You mentioned the schedule ahead for Cleveland. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Both Cleveland and New Orleans still mathematically alive to make the playoffs. It's a long shot for both of them. They would need a lot of help. They would need a win out. 538 gives the Browns about a 10% chance to get in if they were to win out and run the table. Does the locker room there still have, the belief and the faith, kind of like Aaron Rodgers has been pretty vocal about, hey, the Packers, we win out, we can get a little help and we're in. So do they have the confidence that they can sneak in the postseason still?
Not really. I think they understand the situation. I mean, right now they have a 0.4% chance to make the playoffs. They could win tomorrow and still be mathematically eliminated just by the Dolphins, the Chargers, and the Ravens all winning. You know, all three teams are decent favorites. If that happens, it doesn't matter what the Browns do. They're eliminated. They basically need two of those three teams to lose out, plus potentially other help, in order to make the playoffs. It's just not happening. I can't see like the scenario where they get in, and they know that. So they're trying to finish on a strong note, build some momentum for next year. Reacclimate Deshaun Watson. Those are kind of the goals. I mean, listen, anything is possible, and they'll say that. But I think like the last couple of weeks, I think players have acknowledged, like, listen, we're not in pretty good shape. Like it's going to take a miracle, and we understand that.
Jake Trotter here with us on the Hunt Palmer Show. Interesting, I talked about Taysom Hill earlier being used in this role, but Jacoby Brissett has actually been used in a short yardage situation in each of the last 3 games since Watson has taken over. What is that about, and can the Saints expect to see maybe a bit more of that considering the game script tomorrow?
Well, Jacoby's been an outstanding sneak quarterback. I don't know that I've seen a better one in person. I think Jalen Hurts has had a pretty amazing year with quarterback sneaks, but if Jalen Hurts is 1, Jacoby Brissett's got to be 2. And so in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they'll use him in those situations. Curiously, they haven't run the quarterback sneak with him as often as you would think. They've done some play action to mix results. They did that on 4th and 1 in Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago, and Jacoby Brissett overthrew a receiver in the end zone. They end up turning the ball over on downs and kind of set the tone for the game. But they want to keep Jacoby Brissett involved. He was a big part of what they did the first 11 games of the season. Obviously, they really like him. He's a great leader, and so they want to utilize him, and this is kind of the best way.
Nick Chubb was on the injury report this week with a foot injury. Didn't practice on Tuesday or Wednesday. Was limited on Thursday, but he's going to go in this game. Do you think he gets the full workload, 20, 25 carries, considering all the runs we're going to see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, for full workload for Chubb is usually around 20 carries. He's only gotten more than that like a couple of times this season. They have Kareem Hunt. They're going to use both guys tomorrow, but it is going to be heavy dose of Nick Chubb. You'll see some quarterback run game, I'm sure, with Deshaun Watson as well. I think that Chubb has only gone over 23 times on the ground once the entire year off the top of my head. So he doesn't get like a Derrick Henry-like or a Josh Jacobs-like workload usually. But even with the foot injury, I think he'll get his share of carries tomorrow.
Yeah, looking it up right now. Nick Chubb, 23 carries twice. Actually, he did get a 26 there in Tampa. 116 yards.
That's the only time he was over 23, I believe.
Yeah, but you're right. It's interesting. As seemingly a workload back, hasn't really topped 20. If anything, this game script you would think would build that way, but it sounds like he's a full go for this game. Before we let you go, Jake, the Browns have quite an LSU connection over the last few seasons. Unfortunately, Jarvis Landry unable to go against his former team. He was placed on injured reserve earlier this week with an ankle injury. But 6 former Tigers currently with the Browns. Ethan Posick comes off IR for tomorrow's game. You have Grant Delpit leading the team, actually, in tackles. But I'm curious about Cade York. The rookie kicker spent a 4th-round pick on him. His game-winning 58-yard field goal to open the season seems so long ago. It seems very distant. 8 missed field goals, 2 extra points. Is there concern about the rookie status going forward?
Yeah, the Browns have drafted a ton of LSU players over the years. They haven't had a lot of success with those picks, though. Excuse me. And Cade York is kind of the latest, where he had a 58-yard game winner in the opener to beat Carolina, and he has not been good since. They're going to give him a lot of leeway to get better, but so far it hasn't been great.
All right. You can follow Jake on Twitter at Jake_Trotter. Really appreciate your time, Jake. Happy holidays to you and yours, and stay warm, please, out there tomorrow.
Will do. Same to you, buddy. Take care.
Yep. All right. That's Jake Trotter, ESPN NFL Nation reporter for the Cleveland Browns, joining us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. When we return, we'll hear from our good friend Will Guillory, Pelicans beat writer for The Athletic. Lots to talk about. Pels 126-117 win over the Spurs last night, but they're back at it again tonight against OKC. We'll be joined by Will Guillory after the break. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on this Friday afternoon on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford. Check out that inventory, BayouFord.com. Whether it's an Explorer, an Expedition on the SUV side, maybe you're a truck driver, it's an F-150, F-250. They've got the Broncos. They've got your Mustangs. They got it all, and they've got it on such an easy-to-use website, BayouFord.com. They've got a couple tabs there that you can check out the inventory, see what they've got. If they've got what you want, that's great. Call Ben Gagne and the crew. Get it done. They've got all the information for every vehicle that you need. They got a video showing you each vehicle. They've got all the Carfax. They've got all the pricing, the deals they can get you, all on the website. If they don't have exactly what you want, don't settle. It's right there on the website. Don't settle. Go ahead and let them customize a car for you. Call up Ben Gagne and say, hey, I got to customize a vehicle. This is what I want. They'll go, all right, we can do that. We can have it turned around in 60, 90 days. And when it comes into Bayou Ford, exactly what you want, they'll have one of their 6 full-time drivers drive it right to your front door. No longer do you have to walk the lot. You have to take it on 6 test drives, sit down. You don't have to do all that. It's right at your fingertips. BayouFord.com is the website. BayouFord.com is the website. Bayou Ford, they're going to do right by you.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
My dad just really enjoyed his life, and he enjoyed smoking cigars and thought he was invincible. My stepdad quit smoking, and he really felt like he was in the clear. Sorry. I wish they would have been screened annually. It's not just you affect, it's your entire family.
For more information on Ochsner's free smoking cessation program and to see if you qualify for early lung screenings, visit ochsner.org/quit.
Service Mastery Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Mastery Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Mastery Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for
16 in the NFL continues Saturday when the Patriots host Joe Burrow and the Bengals at noon, and the Steelers host the Raiders at 7:15 p.m. Then it's a Christmas Day triple header on Sunday with the Dolphins and the Packers at noon, the Rams and the Broncos at 3:30 p.m., and the Cardinals and the Buccaneers at 7:20 p.m. All here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Gotro filling in this Friday afternoon for Hunt Palmer. We go to the Independence Bowl, 7-0. Louisiana takes the lead. Chandler Fields finds Johnny Lumpkin, his tight end, in the back of the end zone. 4-yard touchdown, gets a foot down in bounds on the first drive of the game. Took over 7 minutes, so good work there for ULL on the first drive. Pleasure to be joined now by Will Guillory, Pelicans beat writer for The Athletic. Will, happy Friday, man. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Let's talk about last night. The Pelicans took it pretty much from start to finish against the Spurs. I wouldn't say it's a big win. I mean, it's the Spurs really only in contention of anything for Victor Wembanyama. So, it's not a big win, but it feels like an important win to end that 4-game losing skid.
Yeah, no doubt. Anytime you can end a losing streak, it's always good. And it was also a really important night for C.J. McCollum, finishing with 40 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. He was going through a little slump there for a while. He's starting to really get it back going, and I think that was his first kind of night to announce to everybody, hey, I'm officially back. I'm C.J. McCollum again. So to do that in a game where B.I. and Zion wasn't there was really important because they're going to need all three of those guys to be great if they really want to contend at the highest level.
Yeah, CJ's been battling his way back into shape from COVID, but it sounds like listening to him doing media after the game, he's really starting to feel satisfied with how he's progressing and where he is. Obviously, a 40-point game certainly helps.
Yeah, for sure. And with CJ, he's always remaining confident in the work he puts in off the court. I think there were a lot of people who felt kind of shaky about the way he was playing and maybe some of the decisions he was making on the court, but he's a guy who's eternally confident in what he does and the work he puts in behind the scenes. So for him, it was always a matter of time before he figured it out. I don't know if anybody felt like it was a matter of time before he put up a 48-9, but I guess the Pels will take it. And, when he's playing that well, it's just a beautiful thing to watch because he's so smooth, he's so relaxed in everything he does. And I think what Willie Green was really impressive with the way he got his teammates involved while also putting up 40 points.
Yeah, Trey Murphy, he's got to take that shot at the end. Get him 40 and 10. I thought it was right there, but Trey Murphy passed it up, and they got a bucket somewhere else. Pels kind of made that close there in the end of fourth quarter. A little bit scarier than it should be. Jeremy Sohan, nice game for him. But Pels take care of business there last night in the blender, and they're back in action tonight, traveling to OKC to take on the Thunder. It's the Pelicans' fourth back-to-back this season, but the first in over a month. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I mean, he's playing at an elite level this season, averaging roughly 31 points, 6 assists a game. How might we expect Willie Green to try to limit SGA's impact in this game, now the second meeting between these two teams?
Yeah, the Pels did a pretty decent job against them the last time they played OKC. He still ended up with over 30 points, but I thought that may have been one of Herb Jones' best games of the season, the way he went at it, where Shai came up with the big charge at the end to kind of clinch the win. And I think that's going to be a key again tonight. Herb Jones going toe-to-toe with Shai, trying to keep him off the free throw line, keep him out of the paint. We know Shai's like the number one guy in the league when it comes to attacking downhill over and over again at the guard position. He's going to end with probably 15 to 20 drives tonight. So you got to stay disciplined in what you're doing defensively. Keep bodies in front of him. It goes on Dyson Daniels as well. That's going to be big. And with C.J. McCollum, popping up on the injury report with right calf soreness, there's a chance the Pels are going to be without him tonight. So that's going to be the Pels' top 3 scorers out of the lineup. So we're going to have to see a lot of these role guys step up. And the big thing is, just preventing Shai from taking the game over. I think that's going to be the most important thing.
Will Guillory, Pels beat writer for The Athletic, joining us. Follow him on Twitter at Will Guillory. Will, you wrote a great piece yesterday about the status of Brandon Ingram. Pelicans have managed to go 10-6 this season in games without him, but there really seemed to be a missing piece in those 4 straight losses. B.I.'s that guy, right? So we know about that setback he had to his left toe. Is there concern that this could be a longer-term injury that carries on, potentially longer than a week or two?
I don't think so. I mean, B.I.'s been trying to do stuff in practice. They still haven't put him through any contact drills. Like you said, they were hoping to get him back during that road trip where they played Utah twice and Phoenix. He had a setback while playing pickup basketball with some of his teammates. So they decided to just sit him down for a little while longer. I think it's just been a frustrating process for everybody, including BI, just because it's gone a little bit longer than they anticipated. They've, scanned the toe multiple times. They haven't seen any real damage to it. So they're hoping he can come back soon. But every time he gets back on the practice court, it seems like he just can't get quite right. So, I'm not going to say a game he's going to come back, because I would have told you he was going to be back for one of those Utah games, right? So who really knows at this point? But I don't think it's going to be something that's we're looking weeks down the line. I just think they're just trying to make sure he feels 100% right, because with those toes, you never know, because you got to stop and start, especially with the way he plays. So I think they want to be patient with it. But it's going to be tough now with Zion being out on health and safety protocols, and potentially, CJ dealing with a calf issue.
Yeah, CJ day-to-day. Larry Nance, of course, missed the game yesterday. We'll see if he's able to give it a go there in Oklahoma City tonight. I'm curious, you mentioned Zion and health and safety protocols. He'll miss the game tonight. I'm unfamiliar with, the rules changing and all. How long is he out at a minimum? Do you know?
Well, it's a minimum 10 days, or if he's able to get back-to-back negative tests. So from what we've been told, that the team's hoping he's on the back end of this. He was kind of feeling sluggish for a few days, and then he ended up going on health and safety protocols. So it's either 10 days or if he can get 2 straight negative tests. So whichever ends up coming first. So we'll end up seeing with that. Like you said, he'll probably be out tonight, and we'll see, that next game.
Gotcha. Good to know. Currently, the Pelicans, despite their 4-game losing streak, they killed that last night, but they sit just a half game back of the Nuggets and the Grizzlies atop the Western Conference. And there have been questions, especially following the few losses, about whether they should look to, perhaps explore their options when it comes to potential trade opportunity. And as those trade talks heat up around the association, do you expect David Griffin in this front office to be involved in some of those discussions?
Yeah, I think Griff always is involved. He's always listening. He's always trying to gain an understanding of just his value, the value of his guys on the open market. I think, of course, you're going to hear guys like Devontae Graham, Jackson Hayes involved, just because they're spotting the rotations up in the air. Jackson Hayes is an expiring contract. But I don't think they're going to be in a rush to really make any big moves, any kind of, hey, we're going to win the championship this year type of moves, just because we haven't really seen their team together as much. I think that's the frustrating thing for them. It's only been 10 games with Zion, B.I., and CJ in the lineup. And that's their championship formula, and they just haven't seen those guys together. So I think it'll be a little aggressive to go out and try to make a win-now move when you don't really know what you need with those guys when they're all available, because they haven't played together very much. So I think the hope for them is to get all of those guys healthy sooner rather than later, get them some time on the court together, and then you can really assess what you have. And I think, if anything, what's made life even more difficult for them is the fact that guys like Najee Marshall, all of these guys at the end of the bench, Larry Nance, Jose Alvarado, all these guys are playing so well that it makes it kind of difficult to include them in trade talks, right? Because they're playing so well and they're so integral in the locker room. So I don't think this team is in much of a rush to make a move. The big thing for them is just getting healthy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You look ahead to the playoffs where, typically your roster kind of minimizes, right? You only have 8 or 9 players really involved. It's kind of hard to project who that 8 or 9 would be right now with this team, with how many players are playing so well.
Oh, listen, man, it's more than hard. It's going to be damn impossible for Willie Green. I feel sorry for him, man, because there are going to be some quality players who are going to be sitting in big games. Because like you said, once you get down to the playoffs, nobody's playing more than 9 guys, right, in these big games. You want your main players to be playing big minutes in the biggest games. But, I mentioned it, guys like Najee Marshall, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. You saw Jackson Hayes even getting some minutes last night. They have all of these talented young players who have been stepping up during these injuries. It's going to be tough to look at a guy like Najee Marshall and say, you're not playing tonight, or a guy like Devontae Graham and say, you're not playing tonight, because they stepped up when the teams needed them. So it's going to be very difficult, but Willie Green's going to have to figure it out, because when you get in these big games, you're going to be looking at guys like Zion, B.I., and CJ to be playing 38-plus minutes. And if that's the case, there just won't be that many minutes available for the rest of those guys. But I guess that's a good problem to have, right, if you're Willie, rather than trying to figure out who you can play when the big games come around.
Will, thanks a lot for taking some time ahead of this busy holiday weekend. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and stay warm, all right?
Absolutely, man. It's a struggle, but I'm going to try. Merry Christmas to y'all, too.
Absolutely. That's Will Guillory, Pels beat writer for The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter, at Will Guillory. I just realized, looking on Twitter, I actually don't follow Will. For whatever reason, his tweets always show up on my timeline because, I mean, he's the go-to source on Twitter. You gotta see all he's tweeting about. I don't follow him. He just naturally shows up on my feed. So I'll have to go ahead and follow Will. He's a great follow. Should take it from me, at Will Guillory on Twitter. When we come back, excited to be joined by Wilson Alexander, LSU beat writer for The Advocate, catching up on the latest in recruiting, the transfer portal, and we'll discuss some prep for the Citrus Bowl as well. This is the Hunt Palmer Show from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Light beer shouldn't taste like water. Miller Lite has more taste and only 96 calories. It's Miller time.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. A giant portal day for LSU and the Riot Radio Hours on our final show before Christmas. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Good start for Charlie and Paul Stone's ULL Raging Cajuns. Up 7-0 right now in the Independence Bowl. Trending towards the under, unfortunately. Houston taking the ball, though, at midfield. This is Max Cocho, of course, filling in for Hunt Palmer. I hope you all are having a fantastic holiday weekend. Pleasure to be joined by Wilson Alexander, LSU beat writer for The Advocate. Good afternoon, Wilson. How's it going this Friday?
It's going well, Max. Finished up some Christmas shopping. How you doing?
Oh, good. We'll talk about that Christmas shopping in the next segment. Some of us do it a little bit later than others, I guess. I don't want to raise my hand in the air, but I would be included in that.
Yeah, I would be a little bit as well. Trying to cover signing day and everything. It sort of forces you to do all this a little bit later.
Yeah, I don't have that excuse. I mean, that is a great excuse. It's been a busy, busy time for LSU. So let's start with the early signing period. LSU's 2023 signing class ranked in the top 8 across the board in Brian Kelly's first full offseason. But the biggest drama so far, of course, came yesterday with 5-star corner Desmond Ricks, seeming to flip in the last few moments, days, weeks, whatever, to Alabama. So the public sentiment is one thing, but how do you think the coaching and recruiting staffs will look at this class as they self-assess their efforts so far?
I think overall they feel pretty good about what they've done with this class because they addressed a lot of needs. Edge rusher, defensive back, even though, like you said, they didn't get Desmond Ricks. Dalen Austin obviously flipped to Oregon, and that's a couple of corners that I think, Dalen was obviously in the class, even though it seemed like pretty late there he was going to flip. And then Desmond was someone they were trying to close with here in the early signing period, and Alabama was able to get him. You have those misses there. Isaac Smith, of course, also going to Mississippi State instead of LSU, but still, by and large, filled a lot in the secondary. Got a few tight ends. That was a big help. Some talent at wide receiver, offensive line. So they were able to check off a lot of boxes with this group, and I think they feel pretty good about what they were able to accomplish with really what was kind of not even a full cycle because they came in, in January pretty much. We're recruiting here through the end of the year, but with a full year to recruit, I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and in the current age of college football, you can use the transfer portal, and they've done a pretty good job. Charlie called it earlier. I think he said methodical approach. I think that's a good way to look at this. It's been a surgical, I think is how he described it. And that seems to be what they've done, filling positions of need. And it certainly seems like LSU, moved quickly to fill that position of need, losing Ricks, but you instead counter with former A&M corner Denver Harris announcing he will come to Baton Rouge. Would it be fair to consider this as a replacement for losing Ricks and rather a fairly even one at that?
Not sure if it's necessarily a replacement because I think they would have still loved to have had Desmond Ricks as well as Denver Harris because then you'd be looking at, back-to-back 5-star corners. Right. That's where, of course, Denver was in that last class. But it helps kind of make up for the loss a little bit because Denver is, in terms of talent, certainly somebody who could come in and play right away because that's what he was able to do at Texas A&M before he was indefinitely suspended there for the second half of the season. And LSU was really careful in vetting that whole situation, talking to him. Brian Kelly had a meeting with him, even talked to high school coaches in his background and felt comfortable taking him. And they see him as somebody who can play really quickly, which they got to have at corner after having to rebuild that room. Surgical and methodical is a great way to put it. They were really careful with everybody who they take through the transfer portal, and they were able to be more so this year because they didn't have as many needs. But they've addressed it with a lot of defensive linemen. They've gotten a couple of cornerbacks, and then obviously a great offensive player in Aaron Anderson. And so they've got 7 as of now. I think they're done for now. But Brian Kelly has said that there's going to be official visits hosted to January after the bowl game with a couple transfers, and they might end up. He's sort of thrown 10 as a number around with what they would get in the transfer portal. So there could be another 3 at some point who end up coming.
Yeah, you mentioned those 7. Aaron Anderson, Jordan Jefferson, familiar name actually for LSU fans,
yeah.
And Jalen Lee. Zy Alexander comes in from Southeastern actually, pretty well respected. So. Catch us up on maybe some of those recent additions you didn't touch on because we were promised transfer news and we've gotten it.
Absolutely. Today, Jordan and Zai committed, and Zai is, like you said, a cornerback who really had a lot of success the last 2 years at the FCS levels over there at Southeastern. 9 interceptions, 20 passes defended, and gosh, if he can kind of carry that over up to the FBS level, then LSU's got a chance to have a really productive corner there. It'll be interesting. He's just going to have to be able to prove that he can, do that at a higher level here at LSU. But he was really productive there and adds depth at a position that really needed it. And then Jordan Jefferson, obviously, like you said, a name that it's kind of jarring seeing that name again, and at a completely different position on LSU's roster. But he was really productive this past year, 9.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks as a defensive tackle. And LSU has been able to add there on that defensive front now with 4 of these transfers coming in, being on the defensive line. Braden Swinson, the edge rusher out from Oregon, Harris Shand, the defensive lineman from Arizona, and then Jalen Lee, like you said, the defensive tackle out of Florida, who wasn't necessarily uber productive, but at least gives you depth and more options at a position where LSU was having to play Mekhi Wingo and Jacqueline Roy all year. I mean, Mekhi Wingo played more snaps than any interior defensive lineman in the country, and they might not have to do that again, be able to rotate more on at a position that's really physically demanding.
Well, Wilson, I want to go back to recruiting a little bit for a second. You wrote a great piece on the 5-star offensive tackle, Zaylens Hurd, coming from Neville. Brian Kelly has already praised his confidence. He's coming after the left tackle position, which is a bold statement. Tell us a little bit about Hurd.
He is extremely confident, but it's not in a way where it's not arrogance, really. Even it's just confidence. It's not like Brian Kelly said himself. Like, this isn't a cocky guy. It's not in a way that rubs you the wrong way. It's just he really believes in what he can do. And yeah, early in that recruitment process, he said, like, I'm going to be a left tackle. Brian Kelly's like, well, we've got Will Campbell, the guy who used to play with. And Dale Lance said, yeah, I played with Will. I know Will. I'm going to play left tackle. And, maybe he will be. I talked to Lance for this story, and I think he'd be more receptive to, playing a different position if LSU wants him at right tackle, early on while they still have Will at left. But, that's just sort of the way he sees himself. And he is physically really gifted. He's extremely athletic. He can run really well for his size. I mean, he's 6'6" and over 300 pounds. Kind of draws natural comparisons to Cam Robinson, the former Alabama offensive tackle from the same area, just because of their length and their height. Even with that, he's able to bend really well. And he's also he's got a really curious mind. He's very interested in just kind of how things work and, understanding words, wanting to understand words at a really young age. And he gets in the kitchen with his mom, and who's a chef, and, has some barbecue sauce recipe and stuff. He's a really interesting guy, and I think some of the LSU fans will enjoy getting to know more over the next couple of years.
Wilson Alexander of The Advocates with us. Follow him on Twitter at WHAlexander_. Wilson, we also learned yesterday about Jaden Daniels returning next season. Massive news for LSU. He now will get a full offseason with Mike Denbrock and the offense, and an offense that will look very familiar in terms of personnel to him. So how much of an impact does his decision make heading into next season, and how might the quarterback room shake out and be handled heading into the spring?
This was the biggest domino of the offseason. Was what was Jaden going to do because of the way that the offense is shaped around him, and because of his dual threat ability and his play style. I mean, he accounted for 62.4% of LSU's total yards this year, and that is a ton it makes sense because of his dual threat ability. But he's the leading rusher on this team, set a school record for a single season by quarterback with 118 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. We saw his development as a passer in the second half of the year, and so the hope there is going to be, if he can continue to make those strides over the offseason, like you said, a full offseason now with Mike Denbrock and all of these wide receivers, which he didn't have. He came in 2 weeks before the spring this year, and now he's going to be able to spend the whole offseason working with them. And if they can continue to make developments in the passing game, then you start to feel really, really optimistic about what else you can do offensively in 2023, because we've seen examples here at LSU. Obviously, Joe Burrow, what he did from year 1 to year 2, just Tennessee with Hendon Hooker from year 1 to year 2. It might not be realistic to always expect an offense to make a jump like that, but it just shows what's possible when you have a return so many guys, including your starting quarterback. It'll be interesting to see what they do in that room. There's some time left in the transfer portal window if anybody were to enter. That is still open through the kind of the early part of January. Haven't gotten a lot of indications, what people are thinking yet in any way. But I mean, Garrett Nussmeier has been in bowl practices. So is Walker Howard. Ricky Collins is coming in. So I think they're going to have a really stacked quarterback room, certainly at least, coming out of the bowl game. And then we'll kind of just have to see where things go from there as guys start to make decisions about what their futures will look like.
Yeah, you mentioned bowl practices, which is interesting because in all of this, with the early signing period being moved up, the Tigers are still prepping for a bowl game. The Citrus Bowl is just 10 days away. How is this team balancing all of this, considering they will be facing a Purdue team that, let's be honest, I mean, the tape might be kind of important. You're looking at a team that's unfamiliar based upon what they did in the regular season. The Boilermakers dealing with coaching moves and opt-outs to key players. So what does that look like for LSU's bowl practice right now?
Yeah, it's, almost a flipped situation from what LSU was in a year ago, where they were the ones dealing with so many, opt-outs and just players missing and all that. Purdue, maybe not to the same extent, but some really key players without starting quarterback Aiden O'Connell, wide receiver Charlie Jones, their starting tight end. They're not playing in this game. And so LSU, as Brian Kelly said, is expecting schematically pretty much the same thing because the offensive coordinator who was promoted to interim coach, Jeff Brom's brother there, is going to run the same scheme that they've been doing. And so they don't have to make like a ton of like crazy adjustments in terms of what they're getting ready for, even though there's not as much maybe film on who Purdue's going to have. But it also, they're not playing those starters, and so that probably bodes well for what LSU can do. But we do know that LSU is going to be playing without some guys as well. I mean, this defensive front isn't going to have Ali Gay, B.J. Ojulari, or Jacqueline Roy, and so they're going to have to be able to play well on the defensive front and take advantage of what Purdue's not going to have on offense. And so in terms of practices, they've been practicing, over the last week or so at this point, and Jaden Daniels has been getting in the mix there, getting healthier off of his ankle injury. But the big focus has been recruiting. And at this point, I think they are allowed to get sent home for Christmas, and they'll kind of reunite and then head over to Orlando on the 27th and then really ramp up bowl practices there.
Wilson Alexander, LSU beat writer for The Advocate. Really appreciate your time out of this busy day, taking the time out for us, Wilson. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and stay warm this weekend, all right?
You're welcome, Max. Stay warm as well, and Merry Christmas.
All right. That's Wilson Alexander. You can follow him on Twitter at WHAlexander_. Great follow for all LSU information, all up to date. You get it first from him over at The Advocate. When we come back, there may be some of you out there, like someone here, who need some ideas for white elephant Christmas gifts, stuff like that. Maybe we'll help some people out with this one. It's the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana each and every month here on the Hunt Palmer Show. In December, we've been telling you about Mimosa Handcrafted. Mimosa Handcrafted started here in Louisiana under founder Madeline Ellis. She was a landscape architect, and her husband Dawson said, hey, let's do what you're passionate about. That's Mimosa Handcrafted. So she did. And she sunk all of her time and effort into that, and the result has just been fantastic. They opened up their first brick and mortar recently at 541 South Eugene, right next to Red Stick Reeds, just in time for holiday shopping. And when you shop with Mimosa Handcrafted and take a look at all their jewelry, 1% of every sale goes to Goods for Good, which allows customers to, 1, purchase the jewelry, and 2, donate to charitable causes such as the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Mental Health Association for Greater Baton Rouge. Such a great operation over there at Mimosa Handcrafted. That's why they're this month's champion of Louisiana. LWCC elevating and celebrating these champions of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, go to lwcc.com/champions, lwcc.com/champions. Nominate a champion of Louisiana like Mimosa Handcrafted. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Located
Me, Jimmy out and Mike Delicano for the Tuesday edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in the heart of Mid-City. Game Time presented by Bet Rivers, 6 to 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Max Coach filling in for Hunt Palmer this eve of Christmas Eve. Louisiana takes a 10-0 lead here in the second quarter over in Shreveport. I bring in Paul and Casey, our producers here, doing a great job behind the sticks. And look, with the eve of Christmas Eve, some of us, I know a lot of our audience, not procrastinators, they don't put stuff behind, but some of us, maybe someone near the Government Street area currently, may not have a whole lot of the white elephant gifts that he needs, let's just say. So I'm going to throw it to Paul and Casey. Some white elephant gift ideas. I mean, we come here all the time. Some people like me, oh, I didn't say me. They get to this point, and we're going to have to face the crowds and come up with something creative that's, somewhat creative, but, everyone will like, right? So white elephant gift ideas. I just want to throw things around here. What's the thoughts about gift cards?
Gift cards aren't bad. Depending on where.
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I love gift cards. I would rather go buy my own stuff, but some people hate gift cards as a gift.
I personally like it. I think it depends where you're going. Like, if it's a Walmart, Target, no offense, but, that's not really personal. Maybe a restaurant, something nice, and obviously it gets complex if you have people coming in from town. They might not have these restaurant ideas, but you have enough people, hopefully, to get, some restaurant locally. I think that's not a bad idea. So we're not against gift cards. That's okay.
No.
I think it's okay.
Okay, good. Personal touch, maybe. I think if you have a personal gift idea, you're kind of in trouble at this point. You kind of need to already think about this. But something that I come up with, I guess, future event tickets I think of when I was a kid, getting to go to an LSU game when I didn't get to go to a whole lot, sporting events. Concerts might be a good idea, a little bit more personal. And you can buy those and, look, you can transfer them online. I guess you have to give them something in person. Maybe you print something out and give it to them. But what else? Anything else? Any help?
Oh man, white
Not for me.
elephant. White elephant. I think alcohol is always a good choice.
Beverages.
True.
That's the go-to.
No one will turn that down.
I may be going that route. Oh no, again, not me. Yeah, I think gift cards, alcohol. That's okay. It's generic. It can be more personal. You know, it doesn't have to be a simple, average, normal adult beverage. But sure, have a little fun with it.
Or go the complete opposite and just get a gag gift.
There you
Something
go.
That everybody's gonna
That's
laugh
a good one.
at.
Those are always fun. Those are the memorable ones. Those are ones we remember.
Looking up a list of them. Yeah, it's just nothing but gag gifts.
Merry Christmas to all of you here from all of us at 104.5. Thanks a lot to Paul, Casey, all of our guests for joining us. Rob, Will, Jake, Wilson. Have a great one.
Every business is different, but B1 Bank knows that every business owner has similar needs. From streamlining accounts receivables to maintaining access to working capital, a trusted bank is your best asset for staying on top of day-to-day finances and planning for future business growth. At B1 Bank, I know I have access to commercial banking experts who care about the needs of my business and can guide me to accomplish my goals. B1 Bank knows that managing your business isn't simple, but they can help you make it uncomplicated.
A third of youth